finance, my mind goes back to the 1990s, early 1990s, when I started understanding economics as it is functioning in India. Before that, my knowledge of economics was limited to studies, textbooks, or theories of foreign economists, and my own understanding of corporate world, through which I was trying to understand India. But in 1992-93, when the tsunami of globalization was shaking India, the big corporates were unable to understand how to cope up with this challenge. And many of them were thinking of whether to sell their enterprises or hold it on, and to what extent they could face the kind of new policies which were bringing in new challenges, capital from abroad, products from abroad, and many of them were people whom I was advising or I was their friends. There was total confusion, chaos in this country. At that time, there was no lead coming from anywhere. The so-called economists were singing the same tune which the foreign enterprises, foreign economists, foreign institutions, IMF, World Bank, they were singing the same tunes that to open the economy, foreign investment will come and will build the Indian economy like that. There was no alternative thinking at all. There was a wholesale defection from the socialist model to the market model at the thought level, without understanding what kind of structural changes are needed, what kind of psychological adjustment is needed, what kind of lifestyle changes are needed to adjust to the new policies. Most people think that economics is a product of government policies. No, economics is a product of the lifestyle of the people. Unless the lifestyle of the people very largely shifts to the new model, which is a product of the lifestyle of the place where the policies has evolved, most of us will not be able to understand what is the policy to be followed in this country and what is the lifestyle adjustment that is needed. So at that time I started traveling across the country. I cast aside my profession, and nearly 4-5 years, most of my time was spent traveling across the country. I went to Ludhiana. I always searched the places where there have been indigenous business activities, vibrant economic activities going on. I ignored Bombay, I ignored Delhi, I ignored Calcutta, I ignored Chennai. I started traveling across from Ludhiana, Batala, Rajkot, Jamnagar, Morbi, because I understood that the place which produces the highest per capita income in India is not Delhi, it's not Bombay, it's not Calcutta, it's not Chennai, it's not Bangalore, it's not Hyderabad. It is a place called Morbi in Gujarat. That is where you find this Ajanta wall clock which you see here. They manufacture the Ajanta wall clock. It's a small place. It has been devastated twice by a dam burst in 1965 or 66. And later in 2001 there was a huge earthquake which flattened the entire city. But still, the kind of enterprise I saw there, that made me understand that there is something very seriously wrong with the elite understanding or the English educated people's understanding of India. India is very different. And in Ludhiana, what I witnessed, in Jalandhar, what I witnessed. Jalandhar is a place where huge carpentry work is taking place. And most of us do not know that that is the place where all the foreign cricket controlled boards buy the cricket bats. Australian Cricket Control Board lodges its entire order with a small carpentry work there. And I have seen in 1994 carpenters coming in those days, Maruti cars, which used to be the cars of the executives in other places. So a very different picture emerged, and then we began trying to understand India. What is the structure of the Indian economy? And we found, shockingly, that if you tabulate the contribution to the GDP, the contribution of the Sensex companies, the 30 Sensex companies which are supposed to be the mighty companies of India, whose index is regarded as the index of India's economic development, prosperity, growth, the entire 30 Sensex company's contribution to the GDP is 1%. The entire BSE 500, which accounts for 90% of the listed companies in India, they account for 4.5% of India's GDP. The entire corporate sector, private companies, public companies, listed, unlisted, taken together, today, 14% of India's GDP. And this is what Economic Times will talk about, this is what Business Line will talk about, this is what universities will talk about, this is what Chidambaram will talk about. But this gives how much employment, The entire corporate sector gives you less than 10 million employment in this country. This is the organized sector. Government produces 22% or 21% of India's GDP now. Agriculture constitutes about 17% of India's GDP. The rest of the GDP comes from the non-corporate sector, which is about 40 to 42%. Even this understanding that this is the structure of the Indian economy, you will not get unless you investigate. But this should be the transparent knowledge of any newspaper reader. So I cast aside all the things, theories I had studied about economics, and I began trying to understand Indian economics as we should be understanding. And our lifestyle is different, savings habits are different, investment habits are different. The way we handle the money is different. And I found a whole lot of paradigm difference between the way we understand, practice and function in our economic wisdom and how the West does. I will give you very small examples before I take you to what is the problem dogging the Indian economy today. In 1991-92, when I was trying to study the cross-cultural effect on economic theories, this is one of the areas of my study. When I started studying, we were facing a very powerful opinion that the Indian economy, Indian economic policies, Indian economic actors, Indian businessmen, they cannot make a success out of India, and we need only foreign investment, foreign technology, foreign companies and foreign products. This will make a whole lot of difference to the Indian economy. This is how the media was articulating it in a big way, and this is all based on a philosophy and theories which were trotted out of the research institutions and universities and management institutes of particularly the United States of America. And in 1992, one Dr. Jagdish Bhagwati came to India, and actually Dr. Manmohan Singh was the finance minister at that time. He brought him and sought advice from him as to how we can get out of this economic mess. And Dr. Jagdish Bhagwati gave a 72-page paper. You may ask me, who is Dr. Jagdish Bhagwati? Jagdish Bhagwati is a born Indian, but he became a very, very acknowledged economic thinker in America. And he was the one who framed the entire structure, philosophy, rules and regulations of the WTO. He was called the god of free trade. He didn't get Nobel Prize, but his disciple, Paul Krugman, he got the Nobel Prize in 2008, and he dedicated the Nobel Prize to his guru, Dr. Jagdish Bhagwati. That was the kind of person whom Dr. Manmohan Singh asked for advice from. And he gave a 72-page paper to the government of India. And in that paper, in 3 pages, he dealt with the cultural aspects of Indian families. India, our family savings have been driving the Indian economy from 1950. And in 1991-92, our family savings were 19% of GDP out of the total savings of 22% of GDP. The rest of the Indian economic players added only 3% to the investable capital of India. Only the families added 19%. Dr. Jagdish Bhagwati says your problem is that your families are saving so much and they should not save so much. You must ensure that their savings is brought down by 1/2 and 9 to 10% savings is sufficient. And you must make the family spend more. And if the family savings comes down to 9 to 10% and the rest becomes consumption, that becomes sales, that becomes production, that becomes employment, that becomes exports, that nobody can stop the Indian economy if you make the Indian family spend. This is precisely the American experience. I will come to it. I will require 2 hours to explain what consumption-driven economics did to America and how it worked in America, how it is ceasing to work in America, how it would never work in America, and it has not worked in India, and it will not work in India. This will require a 2-hour presentation, but I am going to give you in the next 10 minutes how this whole mesmerizing thinking was implemented by the government of India. And he also said one more. You can't really make the Indian people's family spend because the Indian women are stingy. How to make the stingy women spend? So he said you cannot produce goods which will attract them. So you must bring jewelry, you must bring textiles, you must bring cosmetics, you must bring other beauty parlor items so that they are attracted to spend the money because they are very responsible people. Their responsibility prevents them from spending. They have family responsibility, they have children to bring up, they have to make savings to buy houses. These are all very, very responsible people. But you must ensure that desire overrides their responsibility by bringing and stocking these things so that they get out of their bearings, begin buying foreign things, and they are addicted to spending. Once you make them spend, nothing can stop the growth of the Indian economy. Such a serious advice the man gave, and the government of India began implementing that advice. But the Indian women refused to cooperate with the government. They sang the advertisement songs but did not buy the goods. And it is not something which can be just wished away or laughed at. The household savings in India went up from 19% of the GDP in 1991 to 29% of the GDP in 2009. And in 2011-12, the Economic Survey came out with a 30-year study of the household savings in India. It covered 1981 to 91, the socialist period, and 91 to 2011, the free market period. In this 30-year period, the Economic Survey came out with an astounding finding, and they recorded it very honestly. Government does some honest job also at times. And in that they said, wherever the per capita income has grown faster, savings has also grown faster. The expenditure has not grown, per capita expenditure has not grown that fast over a period of 30 years. Whenever the per capita income has grown slowly, the expenditure has grown even more slower, but the savings has grown faster. The people have adjusted their rise or fall in the growth of per capita income in their expenditure, but preserved their savings. This is one thing that confounded the economists in this country. Naturally, when your income goes up, you tend to spend more, but they save more. Next point. Whenever the interest rates are cut, normally people begin to spend more. What is the use of saving this damn money which is fetching only 5.5% interest for a 3-year deposit? In 2004, the rate of interest for a 2 to 3-year deposit was 5.5% to 6.5%. At that time, the national savings began rising. Why? The housewife who was depositing 10,000 rupees at 10% interest was getting 1,000 rupees return. She found suddenly her return was coming down to 600 rupees. So she deposited more money to get the same amount of 1,000 rupees. The national savings went up from 22% of the GDP in 1992 to as high as 37% in 2009. It is hovering around 32 to 33% today. This completely brought about a total negation of the economic assumptions by which emerging economies had been driven. Emerging economies, including the Chinese economy, had been driven for the first 15 or 20 years of